me just show my crotchled region to the world.
See you later, buddy.
Like,
yeah, no one wants to hear about your colon on Facebook. If you have butthole problems, find yourself a group on Facebook.
Can't stop, won't stop. You're fine.
Why do I have angry eyebrows today? Hey there, butt cheek face. Welcome to Paranormal Spirits, where we share a drink, we tell you a spooky story, and then we rip it apart because booze always shows the truth. And as always, we will be playing Emily's drinking game.
Emily's drinking game. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Where every time we screw up a word or phrase, we drink. So grab a drink, play along with us, and as always, drink responsibly, kids.
Safety first, liver second. So I'm here today with another one of my uplifting stories. I'm going to tell you the story of the Hinterkaifek Murders. So in 1922, the Gruber family was living on a farmstead called Hinterkaifek in South Germany. There were 6 people living in the house or on the farm or whatever. Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their adult daughter Victoria, her 2 children, Cecilia the second, or whatever you call a daughter second, her baby son Joseph, and their live-in maid named Maria. Early in the year, Andreas noticed that strange things were happening. He noticed footprints in the snow leading up to the farm with nothing leading back. And then he also mentioned to some neighbors that some keys in the house went missing. He also found a newspaper in the house that he didn't buy or get in the mail or any of that. So he found a strange newspaper in his home. After telling his neighbors all of that, they offered him a gun for protection, but he said, nah, I'm good. I don't need that gun. I'm fine. I'm over here. I'm just holding down the fort on my own with these. I guess it's also a good point to note that the family maid prior to Maria quit because she thought the house was haunted. She kept hearing noises up in the attic. There was a lot of noises happening in the attic, so she quit. On March 31st, 1922, the entire family was murdered. Murdered! The worst part about it is nobody knew they were dead for days. This farm was in the middle of kind of rural Germany, and nobody knew they were dead for days because the neighbors saw smoke still coming from the chimney.
For days? That's a long-ass fire. How is that? Wait, I'm confused. Okay, keep going.
And the livestock were all still taken care of and fed, and
so the murderer just hung around for several days?
Stayed after.
Awesome.
The mailman noticed that the mail was starting to pile up. He said, I think there's something wrong here. Even though the kids had missed school and the family missed church, it was 4 days until the police showed up at the house. And they found the baby Joseph was murdered in his little crib. Aww. Maria, the maid, who it was her first day at work, was murdered in her quarters. Wow. And the rest of the family was found dead in the barn. They were found in the barn stacked on top of each other and covered in hay. It appeared that their heads have been bashed in with something called a mattock, which is like a farm tool. It's kind of like a pickaxe. The belief is that they all died instantly, except for little Cecilia, who was found with clumps of her own hair in her hands. It took a while for her to die, so she pulled her own hair out of her head. Which is
why?
Fear, pain.
So I'm gonna make more.
The police believed that whoever the murderer was stayed after. They murdered all these people and then stuck around, ate the food because there was evidence that they were eating their food and just living in the house.
That's just rude, right? You're gonna kill the family and then you're gonna hang around and eat their food. You should take it to go. God, have some respect.
My name were on those leftovers in that fridge. I labeled it. It was my yogurt. This was almost 100 years ago, right? It's still unsolved. to this day. They interviewed over 100 people. They had a few suspects, but they could never exactly pinpoint who killed this family. So there are a lot of theories as to who the murderer was. Some think it was the neighbor, because the neighbor and the daughter had like a thing going on. And they think that baby Joseph was potentially his son, to the point where he had to pay child support for this kid that maybe was his and maybe wasn't his.
So why would he have killed the kid if it was his?
Because maybe he was really mad about it. He was really mad that because he wasn't allowed to see the kid.
Maybe it wasn't his kid. He's like, well, fucking off the kid, then I don't have to pay. Sorry, was that the Italian in me coming out?
Hey, yo, if I off this kid, give him the old and down with the child support too. And we can have all the meatballs we want. That leads me to our next theory. Dad, Andreas, and daughter, Victoria, were arrested a couple years prior for incest. And they were both jailed for incest.
Whoa. The daughter was arrested as well?
She was an adult.
Doesn't mean that it was still consensual.
I'm assuming it was consensual.
Ugh.
She was jailed for a month. He was jailed for a year. So second theory is her husband, who was the father of her daughter, found out that the son was a product of incest while he was away at the fighting at some war.
Probably World War I.
Yes. So he was away at the war and he faked his death. It was said that he died on a mine, but his body was never found. So there's a theory that he faked his death and then came back and killed the entire family. So in 2007, the German Police Academy revisited the case with all the new technology and all that stuff. And they ruled out all of the suspects but one. So essentially they solved the case, okay? But because that person is dead, they never released the name because they didn't want to hurt the family that was remaining or whatever, because people are not like Americans.
I know here it would have been like, you guys are never going to believe this.
Holy shit, do we got a story for you? We solved this mystery. Give us money. We're Americans. Let's exploit everybody. Also, fun fact, after the bodies were autopsied in the barn that they were found in,
of course,
1922,
right.
It was kind of a thing where they would take people's heads off for part of the autopsy. So they cut their heads off and sent them to Munich for further investigation.
Someone would work in the head department in Munich.
They sent those heads right off to Munich to get checked out even further. Imagine if they delivered it to the wrong address and you're like, it's Christmas! And you open it up, you're like,
nope!
So after the head of the head department got a hold of the heads and checked out the heads, they even called in clairvoyants to see if they could get any more information from the heads. I want my head cut off after I die and just shipped somewhere super random. What's up, motherfucker? And then after they called in clairvoyants, all sorts of chaos happened because, it was Germany in wartime. Freaking heads were lost. 6 heads.
6 heads. All 6
heads.
No, I don't buy it. 6 heads. No, there's some freak sitting around their table with 6 heads as guests. Well, everyone, how was your day?
Oh boy, well, I got a real headache over here. So I just keep thinking about the talking heads. Letting the days go by, letting somebody steal your head. So they lost the heads. Everybody had to be buried headless.
Wow.
They were topless. They went down topless. And it's still an unsolved mystery to this day. All right, well, that's my crappy telling of the story of the murders and the missing heads, because I don't remember the name of it, and I'm gonna butcher it anyways. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, you're out of your mind, kid. But press all the buttons underneath whatever it is you're watching with your fingers or your nose or your toes or whatever. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you next time for more drunken adventures with these 2 assholes. get out. Goodbye.